don't want to add anything on that. Just let it be.
Okay. Have you talked to Susan?
No?
Okay. All right, we will call our February 4th meeting to order. We're a few minutes late. We had a really hot topic about snowmobile trails that we were talking about. So please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we are in session. Disclosures of interest, are there any? Seeing none, we'll move on to previous board meeting minutes.
Motion to approve, Batcher.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes as presented. All those in favor say aye.
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 Same. Motion carries. Review the agenda. Any changes?
There are no changes.
No changes to the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same. Motion carries. Consent agenda, there are 6 items.
I'll move the consent agenda forward.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda, all 6 items. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Finance and taxpayers, City of Red Wing TIF proposal.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
So this next item on here, this is regarding a proposed TIF district within the city of Red Wing. We had received notice on January 25th, 2025. As required by law, the TIF information was distributed to the board on January 28th via email and to be discussed at this board meeting. Just as an FYI, the board can take no official action on this. This is just purely an FYI item, so you are aware of this item. So, as outlined in the notification, the City of Red Wing is proposing a 25-year redevelopment TIF that encompasses 5 parcels. All of these parcels are within the downtown area of Red Wing. The specific buildings are the former Hallstrom Floral Building, the Old Chief Theater Building, the Eagle House Building, the former Riverfront Building, and the former Maltery Building. These buildings would either be removed or redeveloped and would create a total of 149 new residential units, as well as approximately 37,000 square feet of retail, restaurants, or other entertainment space. The county taxes collected for these parcels for pay 2024 was only about $13,825, which under the current TIF law, if these are entered into, we would continue to collect that through the entire length of this agreement. The proposed TIF is expected to generate a total of $377,488 annually through the 3 major taxing jurisdictions. That would be the County of Goodhue, the City of Red Wing, and the local school district, of which $131,823 is expected to go to Goodhue County alone. More information can be found in the lengthy analysis provided by their contractor. Again, this is an FYI item. There is not much that the board can really do with this. The board, by statute, can adopt standard questions to ask the City of Red Wing. If you don't have standard questions, you can come up or you can request additional information. These comments must be submitted within 30 days of receipt. The commissioner who represents this area can submit written comments as well. So again, attached to the report, there's the official notification letter, the TIF analysis provided by Baker Tilly. I provided photos of all those properties as well as the Pay 24 tax statements for those 5 properties. The city is scheduled to have a public hearing on Monday, February 24th at about 6 p.m. if you're interested in attending. Again, other than that, staff doesn't see any issues with this redevelopment project. However, if the board does have any significant comments, concerns, questions, let staff know, and we can forward those on to the city.
Questions? I just have one. Go ahead.
Well, I just have a question. It's just because I'm still trying to understand TIFs and how they work, so it's nothing more than that. But the amount of tax we collect stays numerically just the same, even as inflation occurs and that kind of thing. So we not only don't capture the increased value, which I understand, but we don't see any inflationary increase either. Is that correct?
That's correct. The dollar amount would stay flat
Identical.
over the life of the agreement. Then once the agreement is done, it's decertified, then
Yes.
we would start receiving
No,
that.
I understand. I just want to make sure that I was understanding that correctly.
That's correct.
Thank you.
My question was as to the projections. Projections are based on today's tax rate, taken out to after the project's done and said, this is what the tax rate is, and that's what you'll collect. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
There's nothing that talks about any tax rate change for the school, for the city, for the county. They all stay the same.
I believe it's the set tax rate.
That's
going
kind of the
forward.
way I read it in Baker Tilly's information, so. Any other questions? Right? Anybody want to pose any question to the city to answer? Seeing none. Item 2, draft financial policies.
Hold on, you might have to switch microphones, they're not hearing you.
I think I shut it off.
Nice.
Yes. So good morning, we'll start again. Before you, I have the 2025 Goodhue County financial policies. The Finance Department reviews their policies and submits them to the board for review and approval on an annual basis. Within our financial policies, we currently have 9 separate policies that include fixed assets, capital planning, investments, debt management, fund balance, purchasing, federal procurement, cash handling and banking, and payment card acceptance. For 2025, there have been a few changes, and I'm going to go through those right now. We have updated the scope section of the fixed asset policy and the vehicle and equipment replacement section within the capital planning policy. These updates are to conform with the new guidance provided by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board about capitalization of assets and the aggregate cost of assets acquired together. The second change was to the improvement expenditure amount. We updated that to $2,500 in the capital budget section of the capital planning policy. The amount was increased from $1,000 to align the policy with changing costs. And the last change was the National Credit Union Administration has been added to the authorized depositories, diversification, safekeeping, and custody of securities, collateralization, and internal control section within the investment policies to conform with permissible investments under Minnesota statute. And by periodically having the board review and approve the financial policies, it serves 3 purposes. It allows new commissioners the opportunity to review and understand the policies, serves as a refresher to longstanding commissioners, and shows the county's independent auditor and other financial consultants and rating agencies that the county board reviews its financial policies on a regular basis and takes financial stewardship very seriously. It is our recommendation that the Goodhue County Board approve the 2025 Goodhue County financial policies as presented.
Question? Go ahead.
So under number 2, scope, the second paragraph, it talks about examples include computers and firearms.
Yes.
If I understand from our tech committee meeting, while John and his office are working on the list of computers and all the equipment that we have, I think that's something that's ongoing or not completed. So when they do that, do they get the information to you then so that you have the listing of what computers that there are?
Correct. We have a software system that they maintain that the finance department has access to, that we can view all of that information that they put in that system.
Any other questions? Since these were drafted a few years back, and we had policies, but these are just really good. You guys, you know, it's a really good system, and I really appreciate the work on it, and I really appreciate getting it brought forward so we review it, and just like that process we're using.
Well, I too appreciate reviewing it, because without it coming to the board, I wouldn't read through all of the policies, and so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to adopt them?
Motion to adopt the financial policy.
Second?
Moved and second, we adopt the financial policies as presented with the limited changes that were made. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same, motion carries. Public Works, updated 5-year bridge plan.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Here today to talk about several items related to roads and bridges in Goodhue County, including our last item, that is a public hearing to discuss local optional sales tax eligible projects. Most of you were in attendance at Saturday's Township Officer meeting, so you got a sneak peek at some of the projects that we have planned. But this first item, we're here to talk about our 5-year bridge program. Annually, we bring this in front of the board, and then we provide our resolution to the state of Minnesota so they can get a good sneak peek of what we're looking at for funding needs. Most of the structures in the program consist of township bridges. In terms of this update to the program, the last 5-year program that was approved by the county board on February 6th of 2024, 6 of those structures on that list were replaced. And one is in the process of being replaced, and that's the L2510 structure in the city of Pine Island. That bridge also has federal funding tied to it. 2 of the structures were moved from 2028 to 27, one moved from 27 to 28, and one moved from 2027 to 2029. That's a net effect of the LPI, the local planning index number, changing over time. I like to take a look at what's happening with the bridge. So if we see more substantial changes in the LPI, we try to move those bridges up to get replaced sooner. If a bridge is stagnant and holding firm, then we'll tend to push that one out a little further if we can. So we work on agreements with the townships kind of 2 years ahead of time so we can stay in front of the design process and survey process that needs to take place. That way, when funding becomes available, we can advocate for that and fund these structures. So with the moves, we also saw 5 new additions to the program. with one being placed in 2028 and the remaining 4 structures in 2029. As a point of information, the proposed program includes all of the county structures that were eligible for this year. It amounts to 10 bridges. 2 of these structures are being funded in part by federal monies made available through competitive grant opportunities. So those are federal dollars. We also advocate strongly for bridge bond dollars, and we have been the recipient of those, as you may well know, because we bring those agreements in front of the board to approve as well. So those bridge bond grant dollars, or LBRP, Local Bridge Replacement Program dollars, they've been exhausted at the state. So when we're advocating for legislative action, we need to advocate for additional bonding dollars to put into that program, because it certainly benefits us and our local partners. One of the notes on the report, the last 2 structures, one's in Featherstone Township, one's in Leon Township. There are no number bridges, and that's because the current structure that's in place does not meet the definition of a bridge. In Minnesota, you have to have a bridge that spans 10 feet to be considered. While not considered a bridge presently, the hydraulic information that's come back would size it as a bridge, so we work with the state on those. They become bridges, and then we can replace them utilizing township bridge dollars. So an LT10, that just stands for less than 10. The 2025 bridge replacement priority list is shown there with estimated costs and locations. And with that, I would entertain any questions from the board.
Questions? Go ahead.
L0415 and 416 on Welch, those are the 2 culverts as you come down 7
Yes.
that we've talked about in the past, right?
Yep.
All right. And just confirming you're going to keep in contact with Welch Township, because you were going to do both of those at the same time, which means that section of the road's going to be closed and people have to go around, right?
Yes. Yep, for a short period of time. These structures, the replacement of them will be with box culverts, not an actual formative bridge like you would normally think of. So the replacement will be a lot quicker. But yes, there will be a detour for a short period of time, which is why we plan both of them back to back.
Right.
So we only have to have that interruption once.
Right. Just
The other structure on 7 in 25 is going to mean you can't go from Vesa to Welch.
Correct.
You have to go something and come down Sunset Trail past that bridge and then go into Welch. We're working on both sides of Welch with this one, kind of.
Yep.
Right, kind of
And
right in
back-to-back
Welch with the
years.
2, but the first one's going to probably take a little longer to get in
Yes.
25.
do you or anyone else have an ability to come to one of the Welch Township meetings just to explain to them your detailed plan so that they are well aware of it?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Certainly.
It could be that the March meeting would be a good time to come. That's the annual meeting, so then there's residents there too, if that works.
Any other questions on the program, or is there a motion to accept the program as presented?
Move to accept?
Second.
And secondly, we accept the bridge program as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 5-year county highway construction program.
All right, so again, staff is in front of the board to discuss the 5-year county highway program. It changes annually as funding changes and as we finish projects. Our 2025 program includes the following: grading on our County Road 2, which has been bid out and awarded, and tree clearing operations should start within the next few weeks. And then that bridge replacement that we just previously discussed on County Road 7, that's structure 25530. and a bridge replacement on CASA 8, which is structure 25516. 25 construction program consists of grading and bridge replacement projects amongst others. While not many projects in the county system for 25, the County Road 2 project is going to constitute the majority of our time, given it's a rather large grading project. We'll start with the tree removals. The grading lasts until the fall. I mean, everything's weather dependent, as we all know. We still have 2024 carryover projects that need to be completed early in the year, but most of that consists of turf establishment and just final cleanup on those projects. While the 2024 update provided a few new additions to the 5-year program, the 2025 update includes several new projects. These projects were able to be added due to the federal funds that we received for the CASA 11 project in the 2028 program. Other savings have been realized through competitive bids that we've received, as well as the addition of a new year in the program and the funding associated with that year. We were able to add 14 new projects to this 5-year program that's being presented. These projects combine for an estimated value of just over $17 million and are programmed in years 2027 through 2029. Overall, Goodhue County has a total estimated value of projects over the 5-year program just over $72 million. So we have a lot of work in front of us. As always, just remember this is a living document. The further we go out in the program, the less reliable it is, depending on what happens with economies and how fast we can actually deliver the projects. So with that, on the second and third page of the report, towards the bottom under the recommendations is a table showing all of the projects on the county road system and in which year, and the estimated costs and some of the funding that's associated with that. You'll see in 2025, we have an estimated $8.5 million worth of work. 2026, we ramped that up dramatically to $16.7 million. And beyond that, we have another 3 rather large years. So options for the board to consider: revise the program before we approve, or you can approve the 5-year construction program as presented, allowing staff to present the program to the public and prepare plans to deliver the projects for construction. So with that, I'll entertain questions from the board.
Questions? None? One thing I'll comment, that it is nice to see that we're grading roads and fixing safety on roads and doing it the right way. There was a lot of years where that construction budget was $6 million, $5 million. It was not getting anything done. We were Band-Aiding and fixing roads, but not really upgrading and making sure. And we all know the traffic on county roads is not what the traffic on county roads was 25 years ago. Everything that's farm to market is hauled in a semi. Every piece of equipment that goes down the road for farmers hangs over the edge of the road and is driving right down the shoulder, right down that edge of that asphalt. And it's starting to show on some of these roads that are too narrow, and it's cracking the edges off, and we need to stay ahead of that. The economy is not going to change. It's going to continue to be that kind of equipment going down the road, and milk truck got replaced with garbage trucks, so that's still, the traffic's still out there. It's just a change traffic, so it's nice to see that we're staying ahead of the curve a little bit with that, so.
On a testament to the board's actions over the years is the county has one of the most robust 10-ton networks that I've seen, at least in our district. So that allows our farm-to-market traffic to get where they need to be without being detoured so much. And then taking an aggressive approach to replacing our county structures, especially those that are eligible and have load postings, is also very prudent. So we'll continue to tackle all of that as best we can.
What's your wishes?
Move to approve?
A second.
Been moved and seconded, we approve the 5-year proposed construction project, knowing full well it will be modified. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Local option sales tax.
All right, the last item that I have for the board to consider today is a discussion on the local optional sales tax and the possibility of a public hearing. On an annual basis, we present the updated 5-year road and bridge program that addresses all the issues that we have with our county infrastructure. These programs are driven by funding, issues that arise during the year, and changes in what is happening with the industry as it relates to market trends. Obviously, these are very fluid documents, which is why we review them on an annual basis. 2025 is no exception, especially with inflationary pricing that we've experienced since COVID. As programs change and new projects are added, there's always a need to review that list of lost eligible projects. Updating this list ensures that the dollars that are collected, can be spent on what we're working on in that 5-year program. During the last time that we discussed this with the board, the list of lost eligible projects was updated. Over the last year, we've added several projects to the program. The 2025 highway construction projects that are highlighted indicate their lost funding eligibility. That list is on one of the third page of the report. So today, we're here to ask that the county board approve a new list of eligible projects utilizing these proceeds collected through the local optional sales tax. Alternatives would include adopting this list to use the revenues that are generated from the local optional sales tax, or seek funding from other sources, or take no action and continue to work from the approved list of projects that we had in 2024. Adoption of a revised lost project list requires a public hearing. Notice of this public hearing was published on the county's website and in the Kenyon Leader on January 22nd, as well as several of the other local newspapers around that same time frame. After the public hearing and considering public comment, a resolution containing a list of projects that would be eligible for funding is needed to utilize dollars from the local optional sales tax. These funds cannot be used for maintenance, paying staff, buying equipment, or other purposes. So with that, are there any questions that I can answer from the board before entering into a public hearing?
Questions? Motion to open a public hearing.
Motion to open public hearing.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, we go into a public hearing for lost consideration of the list of local option sales tax projects. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Same. Motion carries. We are in a public hearing for the list of possible inclusion for local option sales tax projects. Anyone like to comment? Anyone who would like to comment? Third and final time. Anyone who would like to comment on the local option sales tax list of projects?
We close public hearing.
Second?
Second.
It's moved and seconded. We close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. We are back. What is the board's wishes on this item?
I would move that we accept the list of projects for the local option sales tax as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. We accept the list as presented for local option sales tax eligible projects. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Thank you.
I would ask that the board approve the attached resolution as well. So it's kind of a two-part
Okay.
action in case there were items that were changed. So the second part would just be to attach the
Resolution is at the end. Is there a motion to approve that?
I'll make a motion to approve the attached resolution.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. We approve the resolution as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Unanimous. Good work. Thank you.
Jeff.
Thank you very much.
Human Resources, wages for summer help and interns.
Good morning,
Welcome.
everyone. All right, I think you're all well aware at this point that over the summer months, we employ staff to do certain projects. A lot of times we refer to them as summer help, and statute limits us to 100 days with those individuals if they meet the criteria of being under age 22 and a continuing student. If not, we can have them for 67 days. It's been a couple years since we have looked at the starting wages for summer helpers, and of course, the challenges that we experience in the labor market for our full-time positions hit this area as well. I can tell you that last summer we had positions where we had no applicants and where we had insufficient applicants. And so we did reach out to our compensation consultant for some guidance on setting summer help wages. And so those recommendations are outlined in this report. And so what's before you is recommendations to change the starting pay for both summer help as well as for internships. And so the proposal before you is in line with previous proposals, but we've also included an alternative to consider rather than bringing this back on an annual or every 2-year basis, but to consider putting summer help on the existing pay grade at salary grade 101. And so those proposals are before you for your consideration today.
Questions? So I'm to assume when you say put them on pay grade 101, you have a pay range there. No one would stay on 101 long enough to get to $30. It would be a 4-year, or an intern would be, at the beginning, you would decide how long that internship would be. So no one would ever get out that far.
No.
Would make it easier to a certain degree. Go ahead.
Well, under the alternative, it also says, though, that there could be the authorizing of hiring up to step 8 for the interns. I certainly support the increase in pay, but I don't necessarily support the putting it over into grade 101 and putting it on the pay grid.
I tend to agree with Linda. I don't think it's a hardship to review this every couple of years. And this is a pretty significant increase for people.
Okay, any other comments? Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, the two things I was going to point out on the alternative is one, there are no employees on that grade number. So this, in previous pay scales, we were always concerned about that we'd be bumping up against where other employees are at, and there are no employees in this grade. And then secondarily, that last sentence there, when it says talks to go up to step 8, that's the policy. But I mean, there'd be no intention that an intern would ever be starting that high. So the highest level we do start is if they're actually in the county attorney's office, and they're required to have 2 years of full law school in, so they're like this far away from being a practicing attorney and having their doctorate in their Juris Doctorate. So just 2 comments on that last alternative.
So then if you're looking at it, if we're putting them on the pay grade, they'd be better off going back to the hourly rate than they would be going on at 1952. Because if we're going to start them back here at 23 to 25, if it is a law or doctorate.
Well, any intern that would have 2 years of law school, and we wouldn't be starting them at the bottom. We'd look to a rate that would be closer to what is outlined in Jessica's memo, somewhere in that 23 to 25. And one thing that, and it wasn't mentioned, but Jessica did go out and look at where other internships and stuff are, and I can tell you that if you're you know, you can go on the AMC website and you go on the League of Minnesota Cities, and if we're paying underneath where everybody else is, and, you know, we just won't get applicants, and that's part of what happened last year.
But is the recommended hourly compensation, you know, of the technical undergrad 18 to 22, is that competitive? Yeah, so the numbers you proposed are competitive, I'm assuming, yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of variation out there, you know,
Of
depending
course,
on
yeah.
what type of position it is. But those are in line.
What's board's wishes?
Well, I'll make a motion that we increase the hourly rate based upon, for summer interns based upon the first part of the memo.
Second that.
Does that include the summer help change too? Because it's summer help and interns, sort of.
Summer help is
Yes.
the top
Sorry.
one, and interns is
Thank you.
the lower one?
Yep,
So
thank you.
You're approving both of those?
Yes. For the first part, not the second part, the alternative.
Okay,
It's the first one.
I'm seconding that.
all right. It's been moved and seconded, we adopt the recommended summer help rates and the hourly rates for interns. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carries. Thank you. All right. You have some capital plan reports, fourth quarter financials, project status, any new or old business?
Steve, would you like to discuss what we looked at the planning commission, or would you want to bring that up at a different time? About the wording?
I'm trying to remember the details of that, other than, I know one of the planning commission members had some questions regarding the language in the findings sections of the report that comes to the board for adoption. And I'm reviewing that with our land use director, and I think we'll have a recommendation for the board. I think there were some valid points made in the comments from that particular member, and again, I'll review that with Ms. Smith, and we'll have a recommendation for the board.
And will it be something that we need to approve, a change to how they report that? Or is that something that the planning commission and staff will initiate and start doing?
I think it'll be something that the staff will just start incorporating into their reports. And basically, the issue is with regard to the findings. As you know, the ordinance has a list of specific findings that the board needs to make in order to approve a conditional use permit. The reports that have been coming to the board have a slight variation of just a couple words, deviation from what's actually written in the ordinance itself. And I think the recommendation from that particular member of the planning commission was to mirror the ordinance language a little more closely in those findings. And I tend to agree with that recommendation.
You're talking about the zoning ordinance, or are you talking about state statute?
A zoning ordinance,
Ordinance, which follows state statute?
yes.
Okay.
I think it's like you were saying, it's like a softening. It appears that everything is being followed.
Right.
You know, and
Likely, but, or as opposed to will not, I think they want
It means the
to.
same, I think the language they're using means the same thing, but it just doesn't. I think the recommendation is usually to try to mirror the ordinance language precisely, and these types of findings is probably a safer bet. So it hasn't been an issue in the past that I'm aware of, because the board has been, that language has been proposed to the board for as long as I can remember. But again, I think the point from that particular member of the planning commission was valid, and I think we should consider changing it.
Kind of the different.
Correct. I read through some of it, and I think also the issue of findings of fact should be facts, not opinions.
Right.
Yeah.
In the past, there's been discussion between the difference of may, shall, and must.
Right. Exactly. That kind of thing is
Yeah,
what.
so there is that question, so, okay, good. Anything else? Committee reports. Go ahead.
So I was up at Association of Minnesota Counties, and at the Board of Directors meeting Bill Stearns from Wadena?
Yeah.
Wadena County. This is following up on HHS and the information about the African-American families and keeping the children in the homes as best as possible.
ICWA and the
Yes.
African American Families Act.
And what Bill said was that their county attorney strongly suggested that they hire 2 more assistant county attorneys to deal with the legalities that were going to come up because of that. And when they presented it to the county attorney staff, the assistant county attorney that they have currently said, no, he didn't want to do it, and so he resigned. So now they're looking for 3 assistant county attorneys.
He didn't want to enforce that.
He didn't, right, he just thought it would be so much more complicated that he didn't want to take part in it, and therefore resigned to go somewhere else. I bring it up just because it was a pretty big issue for discussion, and yes, to go from 1 assistant county attorney to 3 and then have 1 say, no, he didn't want any part of it. So it just might be something in the future. It's going to be more complicated than we think.
Well, I don't doubt that it is going to be complicated. It's going to be stressful, and it's ultimately, hopefully, going to be better for the citizens
Provide
we
better
serve.
outcomes.
That's the goal.
Yes.
So,
I think the only thing I'll bring up, I didn't have a chance to read through Scott's email this morning, but the city and the county LEC committees are going to meet again. And I visited some with Kay Coleman and some of the city council members, and they expressed the impression that the county didn't want them there. And I believe that the board, our board, has in fact wanted to work that out. And if that's not the case, I'd like to hear that, so I have that information going forward. There were a few things that Kay said. She felt that the city was unlikely to agree to have their space be that lower level. Again, this is just what Kay said, and she wondered about the possibility of moving some things from the top to the bottom. And they also expressed a lot of concerns about their vehicles being outside, and she didn't know if they'd actually had any problems or if they're worried about problems. And we talked about how the parking could be, very near the building, but it could be some distance away as well. So anyway, I'm assuming the board would like Todd and I to continue to work with the city and see what we can work out.
I do.
question here, yeah.
All right.
All right. Just a comment on the annual township officers meeting that we were at several of us were at on Saturday. I thought it was a really good meeting. I heard really good comments from supervisors for the township about the information we share and how valuable it is and how they like to have that connection to county staff. And so I thought it was a good meeting. So thanks for all that attended. Next, county claims.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the county claims as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded, we adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.